but very excited to do this. I've been trying to do this for quite a while now, and I'm pretty sure you guys are excited, especially those who have sent me your resume. Thank you so much for that. And we're going to go ahead and get started. One of the first things I would like to do is just remind everybody to please keep yourself on mute until we have an opportunity to ask questions. This is a very small group, so if you have any questions throughout this whole presentation, please do not hesitate to unmute yourself. Let me know what your question is. This is very informal. This is really designed to help you guys. And I want to make sure that you have the best experience possible doing this presentation. If you get disconnected, just come on back. If you just continue to have problems, just let me know. I will send you a recording of the link so that you can go back and rewatch it. So in the meantime, we're going to have lots of fun in this session. And don't forget to ask lots of questions. So to introduce myself, my name is Ann Alston, and I am the president and executive director of Destination Achievers. And not on this slide, I'm also the CEO and founder of Alston Tech, which is a business consulting. So I do both business consulting and I do workforce development, and I'm a trainer. And I love to do this kind of stuff because during my experience in IT, I ran into a whole lot of problems. I was transitioning a lot, and I needed a very simple way to be able to transition through different types of employees and employment to make it from one job to the next job without really hurting my background. And during that process, I also ran into a lot of home-based businesses and realized that both businesses and careers sort of go hand in hand. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this workshop is because I want to enlighten people on how they can take their resume and really expand on that to not just have a career, but just have something that is life-changing, that you can control, that you can build a path for, and that you can pretty much go any way you want, right? So we're going to be talking about that. I have been doing this for about 20 years, got into IT back in, 1982, and started doing IT back, I think it was like 1997. And so ended up just doing a whole lot of stuff in that time. And long story short, this is where I am now. I actually work full time, and I also have two businesses. And you know what? You can have it all if you do the right thing. So there you go. So what is Destination Achievers? So Destination Achievers is my nonprofit organization that conducts free workforce development training and business classes to anyone who are in Maryland or anywhere else. We really are just trying to help you achieve your goals through making sure that you make the right decisions with your career, your college decisions, your personal decisions, or even your health and mental decisions. It's really all about helping you achieve whatever goals that you set for yourself by providing you the necessary information so that you can make a decision. And so our main mission is to provide sustainability, making sure that you're able to improve your quality of life and also pay it forward to share with other people as well. So what are we going to be talking about today, right? So we're going to be talking about how you can take your resume and really impact the way that you are doing your career through just highlighting those key areas, knowing what to put in your resume, what recruiters are looking for, what hiring managers are looking for, because there is a difference from what recruiters are looking for and what hiring managers are looking for. So we want to talk about that and how your resume is really constructed to help you build your career and your expertise over time. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. Okay. So one of the key steps that I like to talk about is there are three major steps really on how you're actually going to get the job. And this was taken from one of my long-standing workshops called Get the Job, where we're actually talking about what causes people to keep getting in this pitfall of either changing jobs, or they're trying to transition because there's a problem on the job, or maybe they just don't know what their career career path is in general. So there's three major steps that I like to kind of build, and it worked for me. It worked for many of my clients, just walking them through these steps and then teaching them what they need to do to maintain it. Because although you can pay someone to do your resume or to help you with some of that stuff, right? You really need to be able to do this on your own once your resume is completed, right? So that's what you want to do. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just really preparing the mindset of just being employed or at risk of unemployment, or maybe you're just tired of your boss, or maybe you just want to change, right? What is your mindset at the moment that you make a decision that it is time to put your resume out there? The reason why I make this the very first thing, because when you put your resume out there, you're literally putting yourself out there. You can't take it back. Like once you put it out there and people see it, you cannot unsee that. So you have to have the best impression possible, and you have to be able to land that position quickly and effectively. I can tell you how many times I've been on the job and everything seemed really good and I feel very secure, and the management does something, and there's an acquisition or a merger or downsizing, and then they hit you with the pink slip and you're like, what do I do? And then you're like, okay, so do I try to go into the same field? Do I try to do something else? And then you have to try to prove yourself all over again, right? But I'm going to show you what you're going to need to do to always stay in demand, to have your resume always getting that attention so that you can constantly get those phone calls in and you can actually land that job. And that's really what this is about. You're going to identify what your career path is. So this workshop is going to give you some insight on that. And if you want to, we can have a one-on-one. It's not going to cost you anything because, again, we're a nonprofit and we're giving the service for free. So after this workshop is over, if you feel like you want to reach out and have a one-on-one conversation about your resume, for those who sent me their resume, I have looked at them and added feedback. And so I'm going to email that to you after this workshop. So anyone who has joined this workshop gets a free resume critique, and then you can come back and ask questions, because it's really all about making sure that you land what you're trying to do, right? The second step we're going to do is, once you identify what your path is going to be, we're going to talk about how do you take what I'm going to teach you and build it into a solid foundation that you can just use over and over and over again. It's going to keep working, keep growing. It's actually going to be your career strategy plan, and that is what you want. And that's done through a well-written resume and cover letter. That is your first introduction. People don't even see who you are. They don't even know who you are. And if you cannot articulate who you are on that piece of paper, they're not going to get it, right? So I'm going to help you get it, okay? The third thing is, I'm going to show you how you could take action to follow up, and so to take the lessons that you learned in the past and be able to fix them and really improve on areas that you feel that is weak in your resume. So we're going to talk about that too. And again, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or put it in the chat window. I will be happy to stop and answer your question. Okay, so let's just get in the nitty-gritty of it. I am actually very forward when it comes to this, because, it's all with love, ladies, okay? It's all with love, because at the end of the day, when you send your resume out there, you have absolutely no idea what they're thinking, what they're actually thinking about your resume. They're never going to tell you what is wrong with your resume, right? So I'm going to tell you all the stuff that I see, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. And I actually got people jobs with this. This actually works, okay? And it's really, really easy, very simple stuff. The first thing you have to understand is that, and this came from Monster on a major survey, that 1/3 of the recruiters think candidates are somewhat honest about their skills. However, 85% of them believe that candidates exaggerate their skills, right? Now, why did they say that? From my experience on doing resumes over the last 20 years, is that sometimes if you're not saying the right words or terms or owning up to certain tasks, it looks like, when it's not in the right order, or if something that you did not add in there and you have it somewhere else in your resume, it looks and appears that you're exaggerating to try to get the job. That literally just takes you out of the running. They're going to send you something maybe a month or two later. They're not going to return your calls. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Nobody's calling me, right? Okay, so we're going to end all that today. So if you have anything in there, and it's really just the simplest thing. Sometimes it's too many adjectives. Sometimes it's the way that you say it. It really is all about perception, right? So you have to build on the perception. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, most of the time, the other problems are that most hiring managers will not hire you because, number one, you don't have a cover letter. And so for everybody who sent me a resume, I noticed the very first thing that you did not have a cover letter. Your cover letter is your major introduction of yourself before they actually get to your resume. I have dealt and talked to a lot of recruiters, and they hate when you do not have a cover letter with your resume. And this is very important because not only are they looking at it, they have to pass it up the chain to the executives or the hiring manager, right? So you want to be presented as professional as possible. So we're going to talk about that. The second thing is that what you want is not clearly stated, or you don't state it at all. So they have no idea how they're going to fit you in their environment. And we're going to talk about that. How can they envision you there? They have to justify your paycheck. So a lot of us don't realize that when you apply for a job, you're literally asking them, I am worth the money. I am worth this paycheck that you need to justify to your accounting, your executives. And I think that by having me on your team, it's going to be a good thing. But if you do not show the value in your resume or why you are justified to be there, they're going to just take your resume and just sit it to the side and say, well, that might be a maybe. We'll come back to it if you find somebody better, right? I've had that happen. Trust me. Okay. If you have bad formatting, that is notorious. If you have bad formatting, grammar mistakes, punctuation problems, misspelling of words, it's an instant like in the trash, right? If you did not apply for the correct job, okay, you have to match that job more than 75% of the qualifications to even get a call. Okay, if you are going to get the job, you have to be more than 80%. You have to be so into that job that they cannot say no to call you and interview and bring you in. But the less that you match that job, the less that you're going to get a call. And if your background does not align with your cover letter and it doesn't align with your interview, you're not going to get the job. Doesn't matter how much experience you may have. If you're not aligning it up and they have a lot of red flags, they're just not going to do it, right? So let's talk about the resume in general. And before I do that, does anybody have any questions so far about some of those points that I just talked about? Anybody?
Yes. I have a question.
Sure.
As far as the cover letter is concerned, I've been looking for a different position for some time now, and I write like a bespoke cover letter for every single job. Is that necessary, or should there be more like a standard one that I'm utilizing for my career instead?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. Thank you. Okay, so most of the time, and I'm gonna show you the difference in the cover letter, right? So cover letters is really the introduction of your actual background. Is sort of like giving them the short skinny on a very high impactful way. You have to grab their attention the moment that they read it. They have to read that thing and say, oh man, I have to read her background. I need to see how she can help me. That's like the gate. It's almost like calling the office and trying to get a meeting with the manager, but you get to the secretary. And if you can't get past the secretary, you can't get to the director or the meeting manager, right? It's the exact same way. If your resume does not align with what you're doing, it literally stops you right there. I have interviewed so many people, and I've had managers interview, and I literally had people read the cover letter and say, I don't know why this person's putting all this stuff in there. I don't know if I want to read the rest of this. Let's move on to the other ones that have more qualifications. They don't even look at it, right? So I'm going to show you the difference between, and you could tailor it. Matter of fact, most of them you do have to tailor somewhat. Now, I personally have a cover letter that I use for everything, but there are certain areas in there that I tweak to be custom for that company, but it seems to get them to call every single time. And that's what you want, right? So that's what I'm going to show you on how to do that. So resume, you're so welcome. So resume elements, your resume is actually you on paper. It is you that's on paper, okay? It has to be you because number one, they don't know you. They have never met you. They don't see you. They're not going to search online for you. They're going to go by what is on that resume and only what's on that resume. So you have to highlight your best self, right? So it talks about who you are, what experience you have, what impacts you made in the workplace. This is key. If they cannot see that you did something for the organization that helped the bottom line or helped them in some way, that they're going to be thinking, well, what am I paying this person for? What are they going to do for me? You know, what accomplishments have you achieved? And this is not like getting bonuses or being promoted. This is literally what accomplishments did you did for the organization that you did for the organization. See, you know, so even though the resume is about you, it's really about what you brought to the table. What did you contribute to the bottom line? I mean, the bottom line means what did you contribute to the money? Did you save the company money? Did you cost them money? What did you do? The sixth thing you have to do on that resume is that they have to really envision you in that space. Even if they've never seen you before, they have to say, you know what, this resume is really good. This person actually took the time to really make me feel like they belong here. Okay. And they have to justify paying you for your knowledge and skills. And this is the one thing where you can actually have an advantage, because if you have 1 through 6, then they don't mind paying you an extra 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 if you can justify that you're worth that much more money. You can negotiate. You can't negotiate if you don't have the other 6. Okay, so it's all about being in the right place on that resume. So we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to break this down. Okay, so here is the breakdown of the resume. And I'm sorry that I'm using another computer today, so hopefully you can see this. So this is a metric that I put together that really talks about what a resume is really built about, right? So you have 3 levels, which is really your cover letter that supports your foundation. So the introduction on your cover letter, the second part of your paragraph, and these are paragraphs, by the way. So the first paragraph should actually be your introduction of who you are and inviting them to be in your world and look at your background and know more about you. You're sort of welcoming them to your resume. Okay, that should be the very first paragraph in your cover letter. The second paragraph should be about your core responsibility, the top high level responsibility that you are responsible for, and what major accomplishments that you could pull out of your experience that would say, hey, this person did this thing for this organization and I want the same thing. Okay. The third paragraph is going to talk about how your expertise is supported, your high level duties, what impacts you had, your what, when, why, and how. And I'm going to show you the difference. And when they read those 3 paragraphs, the 4th paragraph is actually going to be, which is not on here, is to invite them to call you immediately for an interview. Okay. And when they get to the foundation, which is your actual resume, you have to show and back this up. You got to back up the data. You can't put all this stuff in the cover letter and it's not nowhere in your resume. That's a major problem that always happened, like in the past, where people will put certain things in the summary, or they will put it in the cover letter and it's nowhere to be found in the resume. Okay, so I'm going to be readdressing this. So just keep this in mind. You have a level of an introduction, which is your introduction of yourself. You're going to also talk about your high level roles and responsibilities and touch upon the highest level of accomplishments that you could pull out of your entire career, not just the one career, but sometimes the entire career. Okay, you want to talk about how your expertise impacted the organizations, and you're going to give specific what, when, why, and how in a very short paragraph. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And your resume is going to show all the areas in which you had done these things so that they can clearly see where you made these contributions, where you actually did these things. Does anybody have any questions about this triangle of stuff? Mohammed, I see you there. All right, cool. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of resume writing before you even put anything on paper. These are some things, and again, I'm using this computer, hopefully you can see this. The first thing you want to do is you do not want to put your home address or any personal identifiable information on your resume. Why? Because identity theft. When you have your resume, that's why when I asked you to send me your resume, I said to take your address off, right? Because when you have your name and your address and your phone number, all they need is your social security number and they have identity theft. Okay. Secondly, you don't want to put your address because it literally puts you in a box of a location. So for example, if you're trying to get a job in another part of the city, or maybe it takes you 3 buses and 2 trains to get there, they don't need to know that. They don't need to know how long it's going to take for you to get there. I've seen people not get jobs based on their living location. Okay, so you want to just have just your name, your email, your telephone number, and a link to your LinkedIn profile. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need to start building that up. I know a couple people I reached out to on LinkedIn to try to connect us to see if you actually have a LinkedIn profile. Everything about your job, everything should align. So if anybody's trying to, especially when you look for the job, you want to make sure everything aligns. Your resume should match your LinkedIn profile and vice versa, right? The second thing you don't want to do that I see people do all the time is they keep putting the company first because they think that the company is going to get, by working for this specific company, that it's going to get them to work for another job. Okay, that is not true. Okay, they don't really care who you really work for, to be honest with you. Okay, because they are in business, they're making money like any other business, and they're not really in competition with other businesses. So what they want is they want to know what was your actual job title, and they want to know how long you've been there. Okay, and then they only care about is what you did. So the company should be actually under your job title, and it should be actually minimized and much smaller in font. So it should not be pronounced, it should not be bold or capitalized, or it should be very like to the point, systems administrator, Lockheed Martin, real little. Okay, make it real, real little, right? So you want to do that, and then you also want to have the city and state underneath the business company. I noticed some people have no state at all, or they have the state like way over here somewhere. Now think about it. If you're reading a document, if I got to go here and here and here and here to try to find your information, I'm going to get tired of looking at it, and I'm going to say, okay, I'll get back to that one later, right? You want to make it as logically, you want to have that flow just constant. Then that's very important. You got to go name, phone number, address, LinkedIn, okay, summary highlights. It has to have a flow. If you got all this other stuff going on, it's going to make it difficult for them to see, right? You don't want to exaggerate your skills. Now, I've seen people actually put stuff on their resume that they had no proof on doing, because they were scared that if they didn't put it on there, that they wasn't going to get a job, or maybe they had tremendous problems getting a job, but they didn't know how to articulate it. So they just kept putting the same thing on there, right? There are ways to improve your resume without further exaggeration by just simply stating what you were responsible for, what you own up to do. And I'm going to show you that too. Another thing that I see all the time is big words, high level tech terms, phrases, sentences that don't make sense that I got to scratch my head and say, what does that mean? Okay. Believe it or not, 80% of the recruiters are not even in the field that you're in that's looking at your resume. And I'll say that again, 80% of the recruiters who are not in your field do not understand any of the phrases that you use that's related to your position. These are people who are scanning through the resume and looking for certain criteria of your background that would appear to look like you qualify. But if they don't understand what you said in your job description, they're not going to understand how to place you or whether or not you fit the job. So you want to make sure you don't do that. A lot of people use bullets and very short phrases, and a whole lot of acronyms and a whole lot of adjectives, right? We're going to talk about different formats of resumes. I personally do not like bulleted resumes because it just sounds really cold. It sounds cold. It's like you're just blurting out all these tasks. There's no ownership. It's just saying, okay, I just do this, and that's it, right? Some people like that. If you have a specific like skill set that wants you to have like a functional resume, then it will be perfect to have bullets there. But when you have more of a long-standing history, you have, jobs back to back, you really should be using paragraphs to actually speak to the person, because it's a person that's actually reading it. And just like a book, you want to tell a story. You want people to see your story when they read it. They should be able to understand where you came from and where you're going just by just reading the paragraph. And it doesn't have to be really long or anything like that. Some people keep using capital words. I see this all the time, trying to trigger the ATS system recognition. Honestly, if you don't have to capitalize any words, because the ATS is going to capture that in your skills. It's going to capture it. If you don't have to like emphasize on those things, because when somebody's reading it and they see capital letters, they say, why are they yelling out these names? What is that supposed to mean to me? Because remember, 80% of the people that are recruiters are not even in your field. They're like, what? That doesn't mean nothing to me. What is this? Right? So that's what you got to do. And of course, avoid anything like crazy fonts. Your picture, definitely do not put your picture on your resume. That is a driver's license theft identity waiting to happen. Okay, they can literally have ID and do everything in your name, and they'll have your picture too. You don't want that, right? No crazy colors, tables, charts, page boards, the whole 9 yards. The reason is because when you upload your resume, whether it's in PDF form or Word, you have no idea where that document is going to go once you submit it. If it gets transposed, all the formatting is out of whack. If you have tables in there, everything, and it's going to look like you didn't take the time to properly format your document. And then you lose the ability to get a call because you would never know. And these are all things that people, the recruiters, they don't tell you that they don't want to see, right? You want to make your resume special, but you can do it without having all of these other things, right? Now, on the do side, you definitely want to make sure that when you do your job description, and I'm going to show you this actually in an example, how you're going to list your first job, the job that you're doing now, you're going to do that first, leading to the next, just like in a chronological order. And you're also going to do the tasks that you're responsible for in the same order. Okay, some people do the job first and then they mix up all the tasks all in the description. You need to do the strongest one or the one that's most important first, leading to the least important. And the reason why is because you want to start off with them seeing that you have an impact. The moment that they say, oh, I'm an administrative assistant or I'm a fashion somebody, you want to say, manage, execute. Those are action words that they want to see that you actually took ownership. And then you can get to the other duties as assigned, this scheduling, whatever. They're like, oh, okay. So she went from this to this point. That means she grew in her career. And that's what they want to see. Somebody who's going to come and really like get in there and make something, not just themselves, but just the organization too, right? And we're going to talk about how you're going to do that. And proper fonts, the best font to use is Times New Roman and Arial Narrow. Those are the two best fonts that you want to use. They're easy to read. Nobody ever have a problem with them. I'm constantly getting calls because of my resume are in one of those two fonts. And I don't do a whole bunch of formatting. I just simply state what it is that I'm after. And they appreciate that because they don't have to go through and all that. And the best thing you want to do a grammar check, get somebody else to read it, use Grammarly, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you do not have any spelling errors and stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. So we're going to keep moving. Okay. So just to kind of reiterate on the highlight, if you are going into a new career for the first time, okay, and this means coming out of college or high school, you want to list your strongest skill first, okay, and your least strongest last, meaning you're going to have a functional resume for the new career, and you're actually going to talk about what you're strongest at, what is the best thing that you could do, and I'm going to show you how you're going to introduce that. If you're changing careers, like I did a lot of changing of my careers because I was trying to up my, my ability to go up the chain, you're going to list your most recent job duties first. Now, so you see the difference? So, for example, if and when I'm in IT, when I wanted to go from a land administrator to an IT manager, changing careers, I had to show all of my managerial duties first, then talk about what I did as a land administrator. Versus if I was just coming out of college with an IT skill, I actually say, I am strong in this, I have a degree in that, I have a certification in this, I know how to do this. Those are different skills. It's not actually a job duty, okay, if that makes sense, okay? The reason is because you're letting the reader know this is where you're coming from. This is the platform that you're leaping off of to go to their organization. You're coming to them from a new career standpoint, that this is the skill you have and you want to improve, without saying the words, I want to improve. That's the key. Because once you say, I want to improve, they're like, oh, you're just using me to improve your skill. Then what's going to happen when you leave? You got to show some sort of loyalty a little bit when you say that this is what I did at the organization. When you're changing careers, however, you're literally showing how you grew from one part of your career to the other part. So if I'm doing land administration, I could say, well, I started to manage system administrators, and I actually started handling personnel stuff, and I'm doing more managerial roles. And so when I go and apply for an IT manager position, they're going to see how I was able to manage and grow into a manager position. So this actually my job duties that's going to get me this job. Okay. And under each of those jobs, I'm going to list the accomplishment under that job. Now, some people like to put the accomplishments up top or on the side or maybe under. You really want to have it under the job that you have, because number one, it shows that during the time that you work there, these are the key contributors that you did for the organization, not for yourself, but for the organization, even though it is for yourself, right? It's really for the organization, but for you, in hindsight, it's accomplishments that you can always take with you and say, this is what I did, and people can see that, they can envision it, and they can say, you know what, if she did all these things for this organization, she could probably do it for mine. Let me call her in here. Let me call him in here. Let me get an interview. And then this is when you have to sell it, right? You have to know what you did and have to actually sell it, right? When you do the 3 bullets, you're actually telling a story. You're keeping it simple, you're keeping it very concise, and you're keeping it very accurate. Accurate is a key word, because once you go back, let's say that you passed all this and they want you to come in and they want to check your references. When your references are talking to them, you want everything to match. You never know what questions they're going to ask your references. So you want to make sure that everything you have on there is so accurate and it's very concise, to the point. Normal resumes are about no more than 3 pages with the cover letter, depending on the type of job that you're applying for. And most technical or scientific jobs have more than 3 pages. Sometimes they have 4 or 5 pages, depending on who they are applying. My resume is highly technical, so mine is 4 pages. And that's with the cover letter. So that's 3 pages of my stuff and then a cover letter. But we don't want to condense it to the point where it's hard to read. So we're going to talk about that. The other practice that I think people should keep in mind is the flow of the resume, making sure that you keep your thoughts together. So if you're talking about this one section, finish the thought. and then move on to the next thought. And sometimes that's kind of hard to do because you don't want to forget things and you're like, oh, let me put this in here. Oh, I think I forgot that. And you're not really thinking about it. So my advice to that is to just put the resume to the side, leave it alone for like a week, and then come back and read it out loud. Read it out loud to yourself. And if it makes sense, then you're like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. Let me go back and tweak it, and then put it away and have somebody else read it to you. And ask them, does that make sense to you? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And have them really give you honest critique and tell you, this doesn't make sense. I don't know what you're saying here. If they cannot get it, the person who's looking at it is not going to get it, right? The other thing too is while you're at the job right now, especially if you're looking to switch, you really want to get your alliances in order. So if you're going to get someone from the job to be your reference, you really want a manager or a previous manager or somebody who's a decision maker, not just your coworker that you go to. You want someone who makes decisions to actually give you a written reference on letterhead. And the reason why I say that is because when you go to your next job, I'm going to show you how you're going to walk in highly qualified. That's what I call it. You're going to walk in highly qualified. I'm telling you, it works. I literally walked in with my stuff and like, boom, I had the job within 2 weeks. Okay. Because you don't want to give anyone else the opportunity to get the job if you have all the pieces. If you miss a piece, someone else is going to get it. Right. And you have to go in there highly qualified. So having a strong online professional profile, which is your LinkedIn, and having them go to LinkedIn, give you like a short little thing. So it's an online reference, and have them give you a written, and don't let them, don't tell, oh, you write it for me. Tell me what you think and I'll sign it. No, they actually have to write it. It has to come from them, because what if the guy asked them a question on there and they forget what they wrote? I've seen that happen too. It's not pretty. I had people come back to me and say, oh my God, and what happened? Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to probably ask. I know that's a lot of information.
I have a question now.
Yes.
So I made a career change from software sales to executive assistant, and I'm currently looking for jobs in that role. Does it make sense to remove my sales experience from the resume because it has nothing to do with the roles that I'm applying to now, or should I still keep it?
I would say if you are applying for a company that has a branch off in sales, that could be a branch off at doing something as a transition. So for example, I'm just going to make up a company. So let's say you're going to be applying for ABC as executive assistant, and somehow or another they have another department that does sales and they make billions of dollars. Now, you can still apply for that job and put a little bit of your sales, maybe job duties in there. Now, what that's going to do for you is that once you get your foot in the door, you can see where you fit in when it comes to sales, and then start taking on projects relating to sales. You see where I'm going with it? So you start making alliances in the workplace and say, hey, if you need help with this project doing sales, let me know. Hey, I'm available to help you with this sales thing. And the more that you get the experience, this is how you're going to move from executive assistant to sales, increasing your income and also moving you to a whole different line of work. Okay. And it's the same thing that I did when I was executive assistant years ago. When I came out, I was an executive assistant and I started doing more IT stuff, and I started willing out the executive stuff and adding more IT stuff. And then next thing you know, I was a help desk person. Then I went from help desk to on-site support tech, and then on-site support tech to land administrator, from land administrator to IT manager, from IT manager to system engineer to disaster recovery. And I opened up 2 businesses in the process. So, this is how you have that arm reach. Now I call it the twist.
Okay.
I do.
What if I don't want to go back to sales? Would I still put it in there?
But see, the thing, you don't have to go back to sales. What you're doing is you're getting yourself 2 or 3 branches to reach off. Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is, let's say you lost your job today. The only thing you have to go with right now is executive assistant. Now, what if you can't make the same money you made before? What if you can't get a job for 6 months? What else can you do? If you were doing some stuff in sales, you can actually say, you know what, I'm going to do sales. And I'm going to give you an example. Okay. So when I was executive assistant in the middle of IT, I went and got a CDL license because my husband wanted to drive buses in DC. And I went and got a CDL license. We both driving buses in DC, tour guide buses. And when I lost my job as executive assistant, I went and drove buses. I had income. And then I went back to IT and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go and get me a certification. And I think I'm going to get me something else, because if I cannot push computers anymore, I need to be able to do something else. It's called the twist. Even if you feel like you would never, ever use that skill. I had that CDL for 12 years and only drove a bus for 2 years. If I ever lost my job, I am always in demand, because there are some organizations and industries that you will always work. Number one is transportation. If you're in the transportation field doing administrative assistant, they have sales, they have a sales department. That's one. Transportation is one. Waste management is another one that will always be in demand, and always somebody to do IT and to fix something. So any of those three industries, no matter where you are, you could be in an admin, you can branch out and be anything you want in there. You just need to incorporate some actual job tasks in your resume to transition. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what you have to do. You have to find a way to grow a leaf and a branch, and next thing you know, hey, I don't want to do admin no more. I want to do sales. Okay, I don't want to do sales. I want to do accounts payable. I don't want to do accounts payable. I think I want to do something else. But at least you have all those different skill sets. So if you lose your job, you can always go back to it. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So let's talk about goal planning for a career foundation, because when we talk about foundation, which is step 2. Okay. Clear fact, if your goals on your resume is not clear enough, they cannot envision you in their work environment. And more so, they cannot see you working with their team. Now, we all know that in the workplace, when the manager hires you, there is some level of, I really like this person. So that's maybe 40% of it. But then the other 60% is, do they meet the qualification to give me what I want so that my business can be productive and I can like them, the other 40%? Okay. But if they cannot see you working with their coworkers or their subordinates, they're just not going to see how you're going to fit in. So you have to have some sort of goals, and we're going to talk about that. I call them SMART goals. Think long-term SMART goals. The first thing you want is your resume to be stable. Stable meaning that you have a career that is long-lasting, that looks like it's proven, that looks like you're loyal. If you have a lot of gaps in your history, if you're like jumping jobs or they're short, that's going to be a problem. You have to be, I would say the rule of thumb is that you need to stay on a job at least 2.5, 3 years before you make a major change. If you're doing stuff like a year here and a year there and a year and a half here and 2 months there, that's a red flag that either the company is a problem or you're a problem. And more than likely, when they do call you, it's not to hire you. They're calling you because they're trying to figure out what happened. They're not going to tell you that. Okay, they're going to call you up and talk to you and say, hey, how you doing? I just want to talk to you. Tell me about your career goals. And they take you through the whole spiel, and then you don't hear from them anymore. That's really what that's about. Okay, so we want to end that cycle and start building a resume that's going to start building stability. Okay. The second thing you want to do in your accomplishments is that you want to show measurable results. You know, what did you do at the time that you was there? Even if you did a job for 1 year, you should be showing that you did something amazing that year. You can always talk to them in the interview of why you left, but if you show that when you was there, you made an impact, that's a huge difference. That actually adds to your stability. So that's what you want to do. Okay. And don't worry, Aaron, or whoever's writing down, we're gonna get this recording and you're gonna catch all these goodies, girl. Cause you know what? You came to the thing and that's what matters, right? We had 20 people and you guys are serious. So that lets me know. Okay. All right. So attainable. Now you have to be believable. If your resume is not believable, right? You have to show that and demonstrate that you have done the work in the past and you have the capability to do it in the future. That's the only way that they're going to actually believe you. Remember, I said 1/3 of them think that you're honest, but the 85% says, no, I don't know. You have to have relevant job experience. Now, I think Ms. How do you pronounce Nika? Yeah, you asked a good question. If you're thinking that the sales is not relevant, I'm going to show you how you can add the sales to your resume without impacting the rest of your job. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples where we're going to have that. Okay. Time bound. Now, your resume should display how you grew in your experience over time. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years, 7 years, 5 years. What they want to see is the impact that you made on how you actually excelled yourself and help the organization at the same time. What this does, it lets them know that you are very committed. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you are very committed. You own it. You just do it. Now, when you have a resume that's like this, every time you add something new to your resume, it's going to make it stronger and stronger and stronger. And you're going to constantly keep getting calls. I keep getting calls all the time. I keep getting emails. I get like 20 emails a day because my resume is still floating around in the ether out there. And they see it and they're like, Ann, I have this job for you. Are you open? Okay. And I have the power to say yes or no. Right? I can actually choose if I want to leave a job or not. And that's a really good feeling because before you sit there at the job and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this job. I don't know if I'm going to get something else. You don't want to live in fear, right? You want to keep the control and be able to say, I could choose when I want to leave. And I know that I can transition into whatever I want because my resume is like that, right? So that's what you want. And the fifth thing, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, specific. You have to be specific on your resume, and it has to be clear to anybody. Anybody who reads it has to immediately get it, right? And I'm going to teach you that too. All right. So what's the difference between expertise, soft skills, and specialization? Okay. So this right here is the #1 culprit of how they feel like you're exaggerating your skills because most people do not know the difference between business acumen and professional skills or specializations. So soft skills is when they say, I'm a good team player. I network well with people. I'm dependable. I got good time management. This is things I could solve problems. I can listen to customers and I got a great attitude. These are all business acumen skills. #1, if your resume is strong enough, you shouldn't have to say any of these words because this is what you're supposed to do at the workplace anyway, right? So when people have these adjectives here, they're like, okay, do I need to worry about him not being a team? Do I have to worry about them not networking? See, you think it's positive, but in the mind of someone looking at it, they're like, they're picking apart. They're actually going to pick it apart. They're going to say, what they mean they solve problems, and then you don't have any problem solving your resume. They're like, well, are they the problem? Is the company the problem? They only been here 1 year. What happened? Oh, give them a call and find out. And you never know because they're never going to tell you, right? What you want to do is you want to have expertise and specialization. I'm specialized in administration. I'm specialized as nurse practitioner. I'm a specialized cosmetologist. I'm a specialized vendor manager. You know, these are actually industry specializations that you can capitalize on in your industry. So, Miss, I'm gonna call you Nika because I don't want to mess up your name, Nika. Okay, so Nika says she has sales. She could say she's expert in the office administration and sales management. You see how nice that sounds? They were like, wait a minute, she does admin and she handles sales? Yes, I need to talk to her about her sales because you know what? If she's good at admin, that means she's good at people. If she's good at sales, that means she can make me money. You get it? Right? It sounds better. it's a perception, right? So that's what you want to do, is talk about what you're actually specialized in and use less of the soft skills. Use less of those and more of the specialization. So now we get to build a resume, y'all. So I'm going to show you that. Okay. All right.
I have a question, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go for the slide before? Two slides
Yes.
before. Yes. So the last sentence is being specific. For me personally, I'm a technical guy. I work in as a business developer and service guy in the same field, the condition monitoring field. So if I'm being too specific, I will have to use too many technical words and technical terms that are only understood by technical people. But you mentioned
Right.
earlier that recruiters are not technical, they don't get the words that we use normally. So is it right to be too specific to the point where I would be using only words that only technical people will be able to understand or interpret?
Yeah, and I looked at your resume. Okay, so I have a high technical resume as well, right? So there's a way for me to be specific about what I do without all of the high level like details that maybe my coworkers would know about, right? So let me just see if I can just pull this up. I don't mind sharing my resume because it's one of my examples here. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. Okay, now, first I'm gonna come all the way down here. I don't know, can you guys see my screen with the resume here, where it says skills and competencies? You see that? Okay. Now you can see I have all these high level technical terms, networking, software. You get what I'm saying? I have all these things that probably no recruiter have no idea what the heck all these applications are, but they're technical, right? Now I'm going to come all the way up to my first part of my resume. And here I'm just pretty much saying, this is what I was before I became a disaster recovery specialist. As you can see, this is, I think it's like 2 years ago, I got promoted again, right? I'm literally telling them exactly what I do specifically without the technical terms. You get what I'm saying? If they want to know technically what software applications I work with and all that, they can go to my skills section. But what I'm saying is I serve as a system engineer with the HUD. My primary role is to develop and write system engineering technical and requirements. That's all they need to know. I don't have to say any special applications right here unless it's specifically for a major part of your duties. So for example, if I said write system engineering technical documents using this high level technical application, then that's where it would make sense to put it there. But if I'm just hauling off technical terms and trying to make it a sentence, they're gonna be like, what is this? I don't even know how this works. Okay. So this is one example of a technical resume. And then I'm and as you can see, I'm IT manager for 4 years here. And I'm actually given a major statement as a manager. This is my core duty. And then I'm going to use bullets you see where I'm using bullets now, right? I'm not just reeling off bullets right away. I'm actually introducing my core job. And then I say, you know what? I got these other things that I do. And here they are. Boom, 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 boom. So they're like, dang, she do all this and this too. Okay, I could see that. I could see her doing my voice over IP by phones. I could see her doing the HVAC. I could see her doing UPS. She could do managed services. See, they can see me in like 10 different places. This is what I'm talking about, the twist. If the more skills you have, the more opportunities of different positions you can land in, right? And that's what you want, right? And then, and you're going to see this again, here are my accomplishments, that these are key contributors. Now, key contributors, it's not for me, it's for the organization. I put in a new cloud-based telephone system and I put the year. I successfully, and that saved them money. I implemented a new upgrade and IT organization. See, this is not for me. This is for them. So now when I go and I say, let's say I wanted to go back and be an IT manager again, they can say, oh man, she saved us money on business continuity. She saved us money on inventory. She improved our production. She obtained $5,000 in credit. Hold up, she's bringing me money. Get this girl in here. Hurry up, pay her this cash, right? That's what you want. You want to be so believable. And then when you match this with your cover letter and your references, it's a solid win. It's a solid win. Okay. Did that get you excited a little bit? I think Mohammed, he's smiling. So that's good, right? So I'm gonna show you, because like I said, we can have a call about yours and we can kind of go through it and help you define it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, not a problem. Okay. All right. So we're going to go down here. So let's build it. Okay. So again, we talk about 3 types of resumes. You got to present yourself. So the first one is a chronological one. Mine is actually a chronological resume that you just saw. It is a resume that focuses heavily on my work history, that features certain order of work that I have done over a long period of time with no gaps in my history, and it lists a lot of accomplishments. So I have a chronological resume. Okay. A functional resume is one that actually just talks about the different areas. So for example, instead of having all that you just saw, it would say, here's my administrative position. And then I would just summarize all my administrative ones. And then I would say land administration, and I would just summarize all that. And then I would just do the rest of the resume, and it's more of a functional. Some people use a combination of the two, which is more of a traditional resume. And, that's just a hybrid resume. They can use one or more. So I kind of mix it up depending on who I'm applying for. If I know that I'm going for a high level tech company, I'll probably use my chronological one. But if I'm going for something that's, just a regular, IT job, I'll probably use a traditional combination of the two because of my work history. But if you have a very short work history, you want to use a functional one, and maybe a little bit of maybe a combination of some of the traditional chronological in there. That I've seen that work for people who really had a hard time finding a job because they didn't have so much history, and I helped them with that to help them get a job. Okay, so that's cool. All right, so your introduction. Okay, so a lot of people go back and forth whether they should have an objective or a summary, or maybe they shouldn't. Okay. I could tell you from my experience that having an objective or summary works. It's been working for, 50 years or more. Telling the person what you want is always good to have, right? So if you're going to do an objective, you have to clearly state what you want. I want to secure, and I'm using an example of one of my one of my resumes here that, I took their name off, but I just wanted to kind of show. So this person is trying to go for a custodial maintenance manager. Okay. Good example. I want to secure a position as a custodial maintenance manager that best fit my skill set in facilities management. Now you notice that I use a specialization. Okay. I'm telling them clearly, I want to be a manager and I have a unique skill set in facilities management. Very clear, to the point. It's only one sentence. Now, when they read that, they're gonna know exactly what I want. And I'm applying for the job that matches this resume. So if you're gonna say these words, I got to apply for jobs that are specifically for custodial maintenance managers, because I'm being very direct to match myself with the job that I want. Okay. Now, what I see people doing is they'll go looking for a job. Now they start off, not in a correct sentence, looking for a job position as, and then they have a misspell, custodial manager in a reputed, they got that wrong, and respected school system, which consists of dynamic workforce. Now you want to tell me about my workforce. So if my workforce don't meet you, obviously you won't work for me. So, okay, scratch, down. Okay. I see this all the time. You can't tell the hiring manager in this type of way anyway, that if their company doesn't meet your criteria, you don't want to work for them. There's ways that you can actually get that information without like putting it in your resume, right? I see this all the time. So you want to be, with the good example, you just want the straight sentence. I just want to secure a position as a custodial maintenance manager that best fit my unique skill set in facilities management. That's it, right? If you're going to do a summary, like I see some people doing a summarization, right? You can actually, make it a little bit more stronger. So here I am a 13-year custodial foreman who works well under pressure and handle multiple tasks. My core specialization is to ensure the safety and security of facility grounds. Now, just reading just that part right there lets them know that you work to make sure that the grounds are safe as a custodial, and you're looking to be a manager, that you've been managing it for 13 years. That's what I got out of that one piece of sentence. Believe it or not, they only took me 2 seconds to read. Now, once I read that, I want to know where you had these 13 years at, and I'm going to go to your resume and I'm going to look at it, right? So that's literally 2 seconds that it took for me to get that, okay? So you want to get it in the first sentence that they start reading, right away. Okay, all right, tension grabbing. Okay, so here's something a little bit more stronger. I call it summary of highlights or highlight experience, or maybe, something you want to call it. It has to be 3 to 5 bullets, no more than 5. 5 is, matter of fact, 5 is almost too long, but I would just say if you can get them in the first 3, you're good. Okay, so the first thing I said was 13 plus years of facility management in different positions, meaning that I served different positions as a foreman, a custodial, and a janitorial. Nothing to be ashamed about. All you're saying is you went from janitorial to management. That's money, right? Whether you started off at $18 an hour and now you're making $60,000, you went from janitorial to building foreman. That is growth, right? And that's what you want. So you want to, first thing you want to do is state how many years of business that you're in. Now, the sticking point to that is that when you say 13 years or any kind of timeline of experience, make sure in your resume that it reflects those years. I literally watched managers sit there and go 1 year, 2 months, 3, 6, wait a minute, this only says 5 years. Where the other, where's the rest of the years at? And then they go, well, exaggeration. If you can only prove that you only got 5 years, then put 5 years or 2 years, as long as it's accurate, right? Specialization, remember we got this again, enforcing the OSHA laws, okay? So now I'm saying, here's the safety part. Here's the safety that I'm going to talk about in my resume. And then I want to say, oh, I got a bachelor's degree, or you can say you have a master's degree in facility management, which aligns with your job. Some sort of certification, some sort of degree, some sort of something that proves that not only do you have the experience, but maybe you are certified somewhere or somehow, or maybe grandfathered in, you're supporting it, right? With those 3 sandwiched like that, they're going to be like, hold up, okay, let me go and check this out, okay? And then to escalate, not only does she have 13 years, but now this person is saying, I even have 7 years of the 13 years, I have 7 years managerial experience. This is going to solidify me looking for a manager's position, because I did some sort of management in those 7 years, and I'm going to display that in my resume. Does that make sense, guys? Good. Anybody got questions? Yes, Erin.
I might have missed it, but is this in the summary or the objective piece, or is this now in the actual, meat of experience?
So this is actually the beginning of the resume and the introduction. I'm gonna go back to here. So remember I said in your cover letter, it covers your introduction, your high level roles, but if you really take this cover letter, this is actually your introduction of yourself before they even read your history. This is your job history, and this is your key contributions. And put these all together, that's your foundation. That's your whole thing. And your cover letter is going to bring all of that out when you do your cover letter.
Okay.
That makes sense? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we're going to get back down here. Okay. All right, here we go. Your job description. Like, again, I'm going to repeat this one more time because I know this is a sticking point. If you are going to a new career, meaning a new industry or whatever for the first time, you want to list your strongest skill first. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back over here. Okay. Okay, so after I sort of introduce my core job, I'm going to say what my strongest skill, which is IT analytics, really. Right? Here's that one sentence in there. This includes performing technical planning, research, analysis of software. That is the meat and potatoes. You know, I'm telling them who I am and who I work for, you know, who I am, who I work for, what I do, and then this piece right here is my high level core competency. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to keep on going until I get to the least job that I really care about, which is help desk, because I did that 10 years ago, but that's going to tie back to my job in the past. Okay, so I'm showing that not only am I doing all this other stuff, but I'm also doing all this little small stuff too. So I'm going to list my work from first to last. Okay, if you, and it's the same thing, and this is good for career transition. I'm gonna put this back away. This is good for career transition. So if I was just only putting the system engineering part, and I didn't put anything that leads me to my next step, then I'm gonna stay at this level. Does that make sense? If I just put only system engineering stuff and I didn't put all this other stuff, let's say even I deleted all this other stuff and I just stayed there, I'm not showing how I grew over time. It's not happening, right? I want to delete my stuff. Okay, all right. You want to tell a story. You speaking to the person who's reading it. So that's why I don't like bullets, because when I read bullets, I don't feel like they're talking to me. I feel like they're just reeling off stuff they think I want to hear. If you tell a story just like in a book, you're literally talking to them as if you're in the room with them. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this back because obviously this resume seems to be helping you guys right now. So I might as well bring it back, right? So just imagine I'm talking to Aaron. I'm gonna pick on you, Aaron. Okay. Hey, Aaron, I serve as a system engineer with HUD Information Technology System, and my primary role is to develop and write system engineering technical documents. You know what that includes? It includes doing technical planning, research, and IT software application research. And to support my work, I develop and write trade studies and white paper. Do you see how that sounds? They can literally scan this and feel like that you're talking to them, not at them with bullets, right? And by the time you finish, you're like, wow, that's great, Ann. Let me call you up. I need to ask some questions, right? That's what you want. You want them to like really feel like you're part of their world and they are part of your world. And as they continue to read your resume, they're going to see a story that's going to come out and they're going to say, man, okay, she was an IT manager and then she did all this stuff and then she did all these accomplishments. Okay, wait a minute, she was a system administrator and she did all this stuff, and it's going to literally feel like a book. So by the time they go to the end of your resume, they're going to see exactly where you came from to where you are now. And they're going to understand you as the person behind the resume. Okay, get that one? Yeah, that is really that's how I get people to call me for jobs. Okay, so we talked about tips, we talked about that. Okay, so the second tip I want to talk about is using action words. Like, we know that you're doing a task, we know you're doing that, but we want to know how. This is the how part. How are you doing the task? Are you managing, handling, overseeing, executing, implemented, scheduling, coordinated, collaborated? Since you guys are so great to get on here, I'm going to send you an attachment that's going to have a whole lot of action words that you can use in your resume that fit what you do. Okay, these are really simple words that you can use anywhere, and you don't want to overuse them. You only want to use them when it's your strongest work function. Your strongest work function. You don't want to use them in every single thing because overuse could come back to, to bite you later on. Okay. You also want to use less adjectives and more description, meaning describe what you do without actually adding all these adjectives to try to emphasize what you're doing, right? So you want to have less adjectives and more actual specific descriptions on what you actually do. So Muhammad, if I asked you on a technical way what exactly you do, you should be able to say, these are the things that I do on this level, and maybe use one adjective to describe it. And then the rest of it is just, this is the other things that I do. Very simply, like you're talking to your friend, right? That's what you want them to feel, like you're talking to them personally as a friend, right? And of course, your current job should always be in present tense. So when you're writing your job on the very first job description, everything should be as if you're doing it today. Even if you left the job, that first job that you ended and you don't have anything above that should be present tense. Okay, Nika, you had a question? Okay, I haven't heard from, okay, all right. So the last thing you want to do is, again, and I'm gonna keep saying it, you have to have your accomplishment immediately after that job description. It should align with your job duties and how you help the organization achieve something. Okay, so here's another resume example here where, again, the custodial maintenance lead is trying to go for a manager position. Okay, and so clearly this person is pretty much saying, I'm responsible for the overall maintenance and care of the DC school building, which include classrooms, offices, common areas, the who, the what, and the why. My core responsibilities are to perform level 1 and level 2 building repairs, serve as the primary on-site foreman, and oversee building. That is the meat and potatoes of her job. And anything else after that is pretty much other stuff that she's literally owned up to doing, which is great because that shows that she can handle more than one major task at a time. And then this person is putting their accomplishments on how they save the company money or how they help the process. It's either a process or how you save the company money. Those are the two main that I like to use. And as you can see, you only need 2. And even if you only have 1, like, make it good, right? Make it real good. They like, oh man, they just did that in a short period of time. Man, okay, let's do it. So this is another example, right? All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now here's the Nikki. So Nikki, here's the answer to the sales. Okay, now if you have other relevant work experience, like sales, for example, right? You don't have to put it, especially if you don't want it to impact all your other stuff like your admin. What you could do is do like what I did here. You say other professional work experience, and you say sales. Right here, I have, she was a food cook. She worked for the Department of Public Schools. She did it for this short period of time. And before that, she was janitorial, which aligns with the resume, right? So I'm going to show you my resume here on how I did mine. Let's see, it should be on here. Well, is it not on here? Oh, it must not be on this one, but I pretty much did the same thing on mine. So what I did was I say other professional work experience, and then I listed my admin, I listed my other stuff, that was sort of related, that sort of got me there. And the reason why I'm doing that, because I don't want to take up my resume with all that extra stuff, right? You can literally list it just like this without any job description, and they will get it. That, hey, before she was administrative assistant, she's also doing sales. Well, she did sales before. Maybe she worked at a retail or did a cashier. You can actually put that under other professional work experience. And it's totally okay. And they would say, oh, okay, she gets it, right? Skills, when we talk about skills, most people put the Office 365, and that's cool, but what applications did you use in your job? So this is where all the tech come from. So again, coming back over here to my resume again, here's my skills and competencies. Operating systems, networking, software. These are actual skills. This is what the ATS is going to be looking for. Okay. They might be looking for industry words sometimes, but most of the time they're looking for skills. They want to know, what did you do? Retail, sales, technical, engineering, you see what I have on here? I have BlackBerry, Microsoft, C++, all this kind of stuff, right? This is what the ATS is going to pick up. And I'm going to keep getting calls because they figure if I could do remote assistance, I could do any job in remote assistance. I get like 5 or 10 of this one little skill because they figure it's on my resume. I must know how to do all of it. And it doesn't matter if the rest of the job description don't align. If the ATS says that I can do remote desktop or Microsoft Office, then obviously I know I'm a genius at it. Then they're gonna send me offers, and I'm gonna either deny them or inquire. Right. So this is what the ATS is picking up. So if you just put this in the skills and competencies, it's gonna pick it up. You don't have to rule it like through your description for them to find it. You don't have to at all. Okay. And so this is also a great place to put like your industry profession. Like we talked about in terms of specialization, this is also a good place to put it, like HVAC configuration software, time and attendance because she managed somebody, inventory management system. These are applications. Now, another plus could be if you use these applications to do a specific major task, you want to have it in your job description, especially if it was the main thing that you was responsible for on a daily basis. You want to at least tie this table, this list with the job that you did it on, because it shows where you actually picked up that skill. Okay. Any relevant training and certifications and licenses. Okay. So here are my certifications. I'm going to put my most current certification. If I'm working on one, I'm going to put that first. If I'm working on degrees, these are my degrees. I have a bachelor's, I have 2 masters, I have all these certifications, and I can either grow with them. And I don't really have to, with some certifications, you don't have to put a year because there's no expiration date, but depending on the level of your expertise, if you're new at it, if you're new and you're just getting it, you want to put the year that you achieved it so they can see the timeline and how you grew. But if you have a long career like I do, I'm not going to put the date on there because I don't want them to think I'm really old. Okay. I'm already in my 50s. I don't need them to be oh, she's too old. That was back in 2003. Wait a minute. How old is she? Yeah. So there's a trick to that. So if you're just getting out of college, you want to put the years. If you have a long history like I do, you want to take the dates off. Except for when you get to your bachelor's and master's degrees, you want to have the year you graduated on there. That's really important. Okay. All right. So how's everybody feeling so far? Is this good information for you? Good. Okay, I'm glad. Okay. Now, the thing about the high school, if you have been out of high school over 2 years, you don't need to put your high school on there. Okay, that just also dates you. But if you just got out of high school, you should put it there and then put your college degree that you're pursuing and what your anticipated graduation date will be. But if you've been out of high school 2 years or more and you have a pretty good work history, you don't even bother putting your high school diploma on there. They don't really care about that. Okay, so here's an example. Here you go, additional work experience. So here you go. So this is an example. I put the year that I've been there. And as you can see, Nikki, I was an executive assistant, customer service rep. And then I went from that to an executive assistant. And I went from there to assistant to the deputy. You see how I was growing all the time? Word processor. And then on my resume, it's going to pick up from there and it's going to say help desk analyst. And then from there, it's going to keep growing, right? So by the time they get down here, they're going to be like, wow, she went from a word processor out of school to now a 6-figure job. Okay. They're going to be happy to see that. They're going to also see where I was pursuing my education. And this is an older version. So I actually have these degrees now. But they can see that I started off at secretarial school and worked my way up to a master's. Okay. That's something that's impressive. They think, oh my God, she did all that. Get her in here. Okay. This is what you want to see, right? This is the skill thing. We already talked about that. And here are my other certifications on here. And my technical experience so that they can see where I fit in. And these skills should match the job that you're applying for. Okay. So if you're applying for a position, one or more of these skills should be in the requirements. And so that you fit the position. Maybe you got to be 75% or more to be qualified for the job. Meaning that if I am doing a Cronus or Case or VMware, I should be applying for a job that has these skill sets in there so I can get my foot in the door. Now, once I get my foot in the door, I'm going to start looking around and say, okay, what else you have? So I can see where I can branch off and add a twist to my resume. Remember the twist I talked about? You definitely have to have branches once you get your foot in the door. You don't wait until it's time to go and say, oh, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. You start building those branches. You put your roots in as soon as you get in, and you start growing your branches out as you are there. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Anybody? Okay. You guys are great. You got hanging in there. Okay, references. Okay, protect your assets. Okay, references are special. You cannot give those things out under any circumstances unless you are given an offer or you are in front of the hiring manager. I don't care if it's a third-party recruiter and they say, hey, give me 3 references, forget about it. You do not want to give your references up because number one, they're going to get solicited emails. They're going to get bugged all the time. Your references are going to get mad and they're not going to give you a good reference or want you to use them in the future. Okay. So it's already hard to get somebody to actually give you a good reference. And you want someone who really knows your background, that knows your character, that's someone who you could trust, that's also a manager or decision maker. Because when they put it in writing, they're literally sticking their neck out for you. And you can use them as many times as you need to, but just be careful of that and make sure they understand that that's their role, is to help you get a job, right? And be honest about your capabilities, because if they lie and you can't perform and you can't produce, there's going to be a problem, right? So you do not give them out until you get an offer. Now, normally what I do is that I actually have what is called a, well, I'll probably talk about that too, but what I have is I have a list of references. I'll have their name, their actual job title, their phone number, their address, their home number, and their email. And I have that listed out. And then I will go to LinkedIn and I will print out their reference on LinkedIn and put it together with the written reference. Not only did they write the reference, but they went online and told the world about me. So if you was to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're going to see written references on me. Some of them, probably about 50% of them, gave me a written reference with letterhead because I either asked them or I built a really good rapport with them. And I let them know that, hey, I'm going for this job. I'm letting you know that you might get a call. Are you okay with that? And they'll say, sure, and no problem. Them, and they'll give me the gleaming light of glory and boom, I have a job, right? That's what you want, right? So that's what you do. And you have to treat them with respect. You can't just riddle them out and say, I'm gonna just fill this application out and give up some names. I usually say references are given once offer has been made. And if the recruiter doesn't like it, then that is not the job for you, because they get paid whether you keep the job or not. You can get on the job and they don't care. Once they get paid, they're out of it. Okay, so you want to be careful. So we're at the cover letter now. We're coming to the home stretch. Okay, so here is a cover letter before, okay? Hopefully you guys will see this. It says, Dear Hiring Manager, please attach a copy of my resume for your consideration. Very straightforward. A little bit too blunt, but very straightforward. I'm currently looking for a position within your organization, and I believe that I am the right fit for you. As you can see, from my past experience, I possess 13 years of supervisory and 6 years of managerial. Okay, and then it goes straight to contact me as soon as possible so that I can speak to you about how I could contribute to your company. And I know I'm going to be, it's like a matter of fact. I know I'm going to be good, right? Now, to the person who wrote this, probably thought I'm being very confident. I'm confident that I could be that, but actually the person who's reading it, of course, is going to interpret this however they're going to interpret it. It's not going to be good, right? Now, here's the difference. It's a little longer, but what I'm doing here is showing you how you're actually appealing to their organization needs. So for example, okay, so I'm saying the same thing. I'm actually thanking them for taking the time to even look at my application. That's the first thing. Thank you for taking the time to review my application and for applying for this I'm telling them exactly what I want. Custodial manager in their organization. That is very direct. Thanking them. Please find my resume. I'm welcoming them into saying, hey, read my resume. Here are my top skills throughout my whole career, right? And now I'm going to tell them why, right? This is the why part. In the triangle, I had the who, what, when, and why, right? The meat and potatoes. During my tenure, I've been able to grow with the organization, meaning I was loyal. I did a whole lot for them, right? To ensure the safety of its grounds and surrounding areas, meaning I took care of them. And under my management, my team and I are responsible, present tense, are responsible for handling the facility related maintenance tasks. And then I'm going to list a couple key ones, specific ones. This is what I'm talking about, specific, Muhammad, okay? Now, I'm not getting technical now, but I am getting very specific, right? And then I'm going to keep this paragraph not too long at all. And then I'm going to say, additionally, I know about safety and I help the organization save 30% in maintenance costs. And when they read this thing, they're going to like, where did she do that? Can she save me money? Can he save me money? And they might even skip the rest of this stuff and go right to your resume and start looking. Okay, that's what you want, right? Now I'm going to get to the third part of the paragraph, which is saying my background is supported by letters of recommendation, character references, meaning from LinkedIn, from senior managers or coworkers who were pleased to work with me, right? This enables me to be a well-qualified candidate. I'm actually telling them that because of all my experience and because people are referencing me, I am a well-qualified candidate. You can't dispute it. You got to call me, right? Now, did I sound like a matter of fact there, or was I really like appealing to them to read my resume, right? And I'm sure I'm gonna be a great asset if I'm a fit. Can you contact me? Can you schedule an interview? I welcome you to meet and talk to you. And so when you read this out loud, you're literally you have this like little melancholy, hey, just come talk to me. Look at my background. Check me out, give me some consideration. I know I'm a good fit. I'm a well-qualified candidate. Look at all this good stuff right here, right? And next thing you know, they're going to go right to the resume and take a look. This is powerful. This is very powerful. With another tip that I want to say that I'm thinking about, when you're applying online, you should have a separate cover letter and you should have a resume with the cover letter. Why? Because sometimes the resume gets lost in the system. They have you fill out all these forms and they'll say, upload your cover letter over here, put your resume over there. I actually have my resume with my cover letter just in case it gets lost in the system. You never know. Once you hit submit, you don't know if it went over there, right? All right, now.
I have a question, Anne, if I may interrupt.
You can interrupt anytime.
Thank you. I've been applying to some positions where the posting has asked for you to attach a cover and a cover letter and your resume. And then they provide the individual who you'd be applying to's email address. Mm-hmm. The email that I put is really very curt, which is just kind of like, hi, please see attached my cover letter and resume for this position. Should it continue to be that way, or should it, talk a little bit about myself? I don't want to be redundant in like,
right. That's
here's
a great
all of my cover letter, and then don't forget to read my cover letter.
You know what? That's a great question. Normally what I do, because I was concerned about that, is I would pretty much say that same sentence you said. And I would say, my background consists of a summary of, I wouldn't even say the years. I would just say my background consists of a summary of specialization in this and this and this. And I welcome the opportunity for you to read my resume and call me for an interview. And that way you're sort of like welcome, I can't even say it. You're telling them to come here. This is my thing, right? And they don't feel redundant. It doesn't feel redundant because now they're going to read it and they're going to like, wow, okay, this is nice. And they can tell by your writing that you have a different way of saying things without saying the same thing every time. Okay, that makes sense?
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the interview, this is a big one. Okay, now whether this is in person or on phone, you got to know your resume inside and out. Once your resume is done, you got to know it inside and out, because once your thing hits the fan out there, you're going to get all kind of unexpected phone calls, text messages, emails, and they may want to talk to you, and you might be in a position where you're not in front of the computer, you're not in front of your resume, and you have to give a strong interview, meaning that what you have in your resume has to match your personality and it has to match the voice tone. So that's another thing too, is that your resume, the words that you say has to match the way you normally speak. But just be very professional. So that way there's no mismatch. They don't feel like somebody wrote it for you or any of that stuff. So number one, you want to be prepared. You want to make sure your LinkedIn profile aligns with your resume. Once you have your resume the way that it needs to be, you need to immediately go to LinkedIn and start updating your job description with the same information, except for the summary part. You can still have whatever summary you want. But when it comes to the job itself, it's just easier to just take what you have in your job description in the paragraph. And this is why I love the paragraph. You paste that information into your job on LinkedIn so that it all matches. So if they pass your resume around to 10 different people, and it's always that one person that want to nitpick, and they click on your LinkedIn, you do not want them to say, see, they put something out here on LinkedIn that's not in their resume, and that's a red flag. You need to question that. I don't think you should trust this person. You want everything to match, right? You want to make sure that whatever network that you are engaging in, that they are related to what you do. If anybody's connected to me, they're going to see podcast folks, they're going to see IT folks, they're going to see magazine, all kind of organization, veterans, all that, because I'm aligning my line of work with the type of people who align with me. Okay, so anyone that want to question my character, guess what? They're going to see the same thing that they've seen on my resume. Who am I supporting, right? And you want to make sure that you are very careful about who you connect yourself with, because depending on the type of job you're going for might lead you to another job that requires a secret clearance or some other high level. And you want to make sure that you can do that. Looks like we lost somebody. Looks like we lost Muhammad. Okay, hopefully he'll be back. Okay. You also want to watch your posts and join groups. So you want to definitely have something related so they can see the type of interest that you have. I had an HR person and a manager sit there and just Google people all day before they allowed me to actually interview them. Trying to see where you are, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Is your Facebook page open to the public? Can I see the type of post that you're doing? Do I see you saying anything derogatory or anything inappropriate? Because whatever you do on social media, they are actually envisioning you doing that in the workplace. So, you got to make sure that whatever you do on social media is not a reflect on your actual personal character. And yes, it's free speech, but if that's the case, you need to go out there and make your profile private and only connect to people who you really trust and want to be around. Definitely want to do that. Okay. All right. Now, the second thing you want to do is you want to know your resume so you can get a good interview. Interview means that you are very sort of direct without being, you know, I don't know what's the word. You don't want to be too blunt, but you want to be direct to the point. You're going to get recruiters going to call you and they're going to ask you questions without giving you any information. The rule of thumb is if they can't tell you the job and they're busy asking you about what you're doing and how much you're making and all that, they have no job to talk about. Just pretty much say, listen, if you do not have a position that you want to talk to me about, give me a call when you do, or send me an email with the job description. Don't even waste your time talking to those folks. They just fish in. They don't really have a job, right? But when you do get someone who's serious, just make sure you know your resume and just be very candid about your situation and what you're looking for. Do not talk negative about your boss, your job, or anything that happened on your job. Do not say anything negative, because when you do that, it lets them know that if you was to ever leave them, you would talk negative about them. So you want to be very careful about that. You never know if these people know each other. Companies do business with each other all the time. You want to make sure that you actually give them a reason to have you come in person for an interview. And that's done by just making sure you know your resume, you talk positive, you always give a solution. So like if they ask you a question about what you did in the past, after you give them a short explanation, throw in a solution. You know, when I was there, I actually implemented this program that really was helpful to da 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 da. They love that. They absolutely love that. They eat that up, right? So you definitely want to do that. And then when you get them on your side, they will literally offer you to go in and meet with the hiring manager. Okay. Now, this is when you get the job. Okay. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you research the heck out of that company. Make sure you understand the mission and their objectives so that your skills align together. Because remember, even though they're interviewing you, when you get to this stage, you are interviewing them to make sure that it's the right place you want to be. You don't want to get a job where you're going to be stressed out and you have people, the culture is not good. I always recommend to ask the question, what is the culture like at the environment? And then go out to Glassdoor, do like blind reviews and see what other people are saying about the organization to make sure that you are aligned with their objectives. Do you believe in their company? Do you believe in what they do? Right? So that's what you want. When you do walk in the door, whoever is at the table, and you always want to ask that question, who is going to be in the room? And they should tell you it's going to be these people in the room. You want to walk in there with a folder for each one of them, including yourself. And in the folder, you're going to have your completed resume with your cover letter. You're going to have a printout of your LinkedIn references. You're going to have your written reference. And you're only going to pass out the interview. You're actually going to give the references. You're not going to have the references in their folder initially. It's just going to be the resume and cover letter. If the hiring manager is in there and the interview is going great, that's when you pull out your folder and say, hey, let me give you a copy of my personal references, because the decision maker is in the room and it was a great interview, right? But if it doesn't look too good, you take you and your references like with you, and you don't, your reference don't know that you didn't have a great interview, right? So you want to do that. You want to make sure that you have a really good rapport of looking them in the eye and be very relaxed. Don't feel, you're going to be nervous, but try to practice not being nervous. But if you're very confident in what you provide on your resume, it should come out in your personality, your attitude. You're very relaxed. You got eye contact. This has worked for me all the time. Trust me, it have all the time. It works for me, and it works for other people too. So if you're trying to get a job and you want to meet with me later, talk about your resume or interview, I'll be happy to share with you, tips that I've done when people ask me certain weird questions, and I was like, in the inside, I was like, oh, not on the inside, but then on the outside, I'm like, don't panic. Just think of an answer. That's how I was, right? So I'm going to teach you how to fight back on that so that, you don't lose your grip in the interview, right? And once they come back with a letter of offer, If you didn't get a chance to do your references before, then you could say, hey, let me scan these references and shoot them off. And then you give the blast to your friends and say, hey, they're going to call you. They might call you. Be on the lookout. And you're in. You're in like Flynn, as long as it's not a problem, right? So that's usually what I do. And also last but not least, you want to come to the table and really question them about their organization. Meaning you want to know how the position became to be. What is the main purpose of the position? What is the long-term goal? You know, is there any growth? Would you be able to expand and help the organization further? And you use the words help the organization. You want to know about where the direction of the company is going to go in the next 3 to 5 years. Just like they ask you, what do you see yourself in this company in 3 to 5 years? You ask them, where's the company going to go in 3 to 5 years? I mean, what is the direction of the organization? And you actually pick out some facts that you know about the company to really show your knowledge. They love that. Because they're like, oh man, she really scoped us out. Hold up. They don't expect that all the time, right? But when you ask those questions, it lets them know that you're invested. It lets them know that you're invested to be in their environment. And they really love that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much really masterminding your resume, really understanding what you have to do to get there, to get the job. And I am just happy that you guys joined. I do have your resumes. I made some feedbacks. Oh, there you go. Now I see you. Okay. And I definitely will be sending you back that and that information. And if you want to talk further, you'll have my email. We can set up a time. We could do a Zoom session. We could talk by phone. I know some people are in Canada and other places, but just let me know what you need to help you. And this is basically for folks who join this webinar. Even the people that's going to get the playback are not going to get free resume critique because it's only for those who actually came, because that lets me know you're invested and that you're actually serious on fixing the situation or improving on what you're trying to do. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to open up the floor and you guys can just go at it. I'm an open book. All right, don't go all at once.
If there is gaps in employment, do you recommend leaving off the ones that would indicate a gap from a resume, or does it make sense to include them? I'm always kind of curious as to whether or not I'm damning myself by having that experience on there.
Honestly, I think that's an opportunity for you to explain when you do get in an interview, because a lot of times you don't want to leave it to their devices. Like, for instance, you can even put in there pursuing college degree, or you're pursuing personal endeavors, or you can put something in that gap to indicate that you actually took a break from working to do something personal for yourself, to improve upon yourself. And all that does is shows that you are invested in your personal development. But if you not putting anything and you just keep getting gap after gap after gap, then they're like, wait a minute, this person is probably getting fired and not getting a job for a long period of time. And then you will never get a call. But if you have one little tiny gap, and they see that you went and got a college degree, you could definitely use that. And when you get in the interview, you can expand a little bit on that, but not too personally though, not to the point where you start talking about other things that got in your way and all that. Just stick with what you did in that time and it should be good, because they'll move on. But if you kind of keep adding stuff to it, they're going to keep asking you questions you don't want to answer. All right, Karabi, you've been quiet this whole time. I have to call on you now. How you doing, sweetheart? What can I help you with? What's your question?
Thank you. I wanted to ask about volunteer work. Should we include it on the resume? Where should we put it? Especially when it's really relevant and recent.
Okay, so I love volunteer work. It should actually be under your skills and competencies where right before you get to your certifications, it should be there because that's where it shows that not only you have these skills, but you also involve yourself in community activities that have nothing to do with your job. And it actually shows your character on how you deal with people. So it's always good to put volunteer work maybe close to the end before you get to licenses, just to show these are your extra you know, you can call them extra activities, extra, whatever they call it, you know, activities and interests or whatever you want to call it, hobbies. I don't like saying hobbies. I like saying, you know, extra activities or outdoor activities or volunteer work, something high level, but not like hobbies or anything like that. That's at least what I do. And they go, oh, wow, she got a nonprofit. Oh, she's doing this. What do you do? And then they get inquired, they ask about it. Now, what I will say is that don't get overzealous when they ask you about volunteer work, because what you want to do is say, I do it on my spare time, but not too much information because it'll backfire. They'll say, well, is she going to do this stuff on the clock? Is she going to do this stuff at the job? Is she going to not have time for me? You know, they don't get too overly excited when they ask you about those things. Just say you do it on your own time. You know, however, you know, your loyalty is to your work first, and then you know, you like to do things when you have a chance, and then have them try to change the subject off of it immediately, right? Because you don't want them to stay on it too long and then start like digging in and you realize you gave up too much information. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, Nikki, what's up?
Okay, so this is related to my name. I know it's a little difficult to pronounce, so am I supposed to put Nikki on my resume? Well, my official name is Swapnika. Do you think it harms my resume putting my actual name?
No, because
No.
my first name is Anissa.
Okay.
And I use my middle name, Ann. And you know what? Nobody asked me what the A stands for.
Okay.
They don't. It's A period Ann Austin. And, you know, and it's sad because, you know, when 9/11 hit, I couldn't even get a phone call because of my name. And so I ended up just using Ann. So I'm not lying. My name is Ann, right? But my first name is actually Anissa, Anissa. So I think Nikki is fine. You can put Nikki, but when you get on the job, you'll have your official name there. And you could tell them in the email, just display Nikki, whatever your last name is. That's the same thing I do at my job. I just have Ann Austin, but on my HR records, it'll say Anissa Ann Austin.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's helpful. I wouldn't worry about that because there's so many diverse names out there today. They're used to people using surnames.
Okay.
Right? They're used to it. So I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Thank you.
I get Anissa, Pisa, Anisha, and amnesia. Sometimes I think I'm Papa John's. Okay. So, you know, I get it all the time, but I just stick with Ann. You can't mess that up. Yeah. That's one of the sticking points too. Just say, hi, my name is Nikki, and they're happy to say Nikki. And then you don't have to worry about correcting them, because sometimes what happens is I used to have to correct them to say, it's not Anissa, it's Anissa. And then they will feel a little bit defensive or, you know, offend. Oh, I didn't mean to offend you. And then the whole mood is messed up, right? The whole entire atmosphere has changed. The whole sphere of the world has just shifted to the black void because they said my name wrong. Right? So just stick with Nikki and you're good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, guys, I am available. I know this has been a pretty long one, but I wanted to make sure I'm addressing all your questions, and I will be emailing you back your individual resume to you. And I really enjoyed talking to you. I really think you guys have really good, diverse backgrounds, and you're not going to have any problems just making those few changes. And pretty much, I want to hear back from you now that things worked out, or if you need tweak, if you need help with interviewing, whatever it is, just let me know, and I'll be happy to work with you.
I'm sorry, and I have one last question, kind of.
Sure.
Sorry, that just popped in. So As I said earlier, I've been applying for positions for a little while now. I would say for about a month. I've applied for quite a few. And I'm just wondering, after I update my resume, in particular, if it's like a drastic update, is it appropriate to reapply or to like resend my resume out to some of the agencies and organizations I've applied to, or are those just kind of like lost causes if I haven't heard from them?
I would say it all depends on how long it's been. So I did that in the past, and I realized that if I did it within 6 months of already applying, and then I come back and make an update, they're going to wonder why I have 2 resumes in the system with different information. But if it's been a year or a year and a half, then an update would make sense. And I do think, and may I ask, like, what are some of the issues that you are particularly having? Are they just not responding, or they taking a long time, or when they do talk to you, there's always something going on?
No, I'm actually just not getting the callback. So even like historically, like in my career, I'll get no callbacks. And then if I actually get the opportunity to interview, I get the job right away.
Right.
So it's like a matter of, I think it's probably my resume, right? Like it's not necessarily like me. I don't go in and freeze. Like I get to go in and I get to really sell myself. But I think I'm missing something.
Okay.
When I go to present myself, because I just don't hear back. And I like consistently will send out, I think I've probably I've sent out like 50 resumes in the past year, and I've gotten
0.
Yeah, no communication, nothing beyond the automatic email that says we've gotten your resume, someone will be in touch if you're appropriate.
I can tell you the number one thing that's a problem is formatting. It's formatting. If your resume is in a way that people cannot easily get the information, that's why I'm gonna bring this back up on the screen here, just to kind of, since you guys asked this question. This might look like the plainest resume in the world, but honestly, people, I don't know why this thing, I'm using another computer and it's doing that, but honestly, it's straight to the point. It is plain. There's a logical flow to it. I'm literally, okay, so you guys have my name. Okay, so here's my name, A.N. Like I said, they don't ask me about the A. Okay. I am literally giving them 4 major points. This is actually a 4-year-old resume here. Highly accomplished IT manager with 20 years of proven IT experience. And then I'm going to prove that. I'm literally giving them 4 specializations of what I do. Okay. I think in my current resume, the last thing I put that I had 3 degrees in IT to solidify my experience, right? But at the time, I was still getting my degrees when I did this one. And then I actually have it on here. So again, you don't see any major lines. You don't see any different weird configurations. My name, although it's bold, is not overly big that it's like taking up the whole screen. So it's like when you go on an interview, if you're wearing jewelry or loud clothes or anything that keeps your eye focused on that one thing, they're going to do the same thing with your resume. So if you have a resume that has all these lines and curves and stuff, they're going to be trying to search around to find the information, and then they're going to get tired and they're going to stop looking. They're not going to call you. And the ones that are interested say, wow, okay, wait a minute. Her resume may not be great, but now that I got her in the room, it sounds like everything I want. And that's what you're getting, right? Make it plain. I don't need it to be pretty. Right? Some people feel that if they make it pretty, then it's going to catch their attention. Or if I, like right here, I work for Leidos, which is one of the #1 engineering firms of the world. I'm not going to put Leidos out there as a bait. I work for Leidos, so you should hire me. I'm never, that what that does is it shows that you're sort of self-centered, that you're not really thinking about you as the actual role. So they care about the role and what you did. And then once you plainly have it there, they're going to get it and you're going to start getting calls. Trust me when I tell you. So some of the comments, and I probably will go back to yours specifically and tell you where you need to make changes, but just switching this around, stripping it down to just a plain resume, you're going to realize you're going to start getting a whole lot of calls. Because once you have that once you, and that's the thing about the first two jobs, you got to get them immediately on the first one, and the rest of us is going to follow. Okay. And I can help you with that. It's not costing you guys no money, so you gotta worry about spending it all.
I love that. It's so funny because I actually paid for the template that I used for my resume. Because at some point, you know, at probably back in college or something, someone was like, you really have to wow them. It should, you know, it should have like different fonts and different shapes and different sizes. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to buy a template. And so, you know, like went to Etsy and paid for a template because I thought that having it, you know, look really standard like this was the wrong thing to do. But I do think, like you said, I think I have, like, it's a lot happening on my resume. So it's probably just difficult to follow.
I think the fear is that people keep saying your resume should only be 1 page or 2 pages. But what happens is you leave out all the good stuff. You know, you leave out all the stuff that they really care about. And there's a way that you can wow them without all of the fluff, you know, and that's why it feels exaggerated. When I used to do like the in-person and I had like a whole room full of people, I had HR people come in there and they pretty much said, if I have to spend more than 2 minutes trying to figure out what you do, I'm not going to get it. Because I got these many resumes. And even for the IT manager job that I did, I went up against 65 people. I had no idea I was going up against, but I was the 67th resume on an IT manager, and they chose me because I clearly stated down in here. Oh, this is another thing too I'm going to show you guys now that you talk about. So in this specific position right here, let's say you got a job and you've been there for like 4 years and you got promoted. I think somebody said in there that they got promoted. As you can see in here, I had 2 separate jobs. I was a system administrator here, and then I was a lead up here. So what I'm doing is I'm showing my job tasks as a system administrator, and then I'm showing how I'm a lead up here with the same timeline in that period. I'm not like saying system administrator and then the date and all. I don't need to do all that. I just need to show that I actually held 2 positions over this period of time and how I grew. Some people don't do that. They just kind of melding it all together. I need for them to clearly see, what did I do as a system administrator? What did I do as the lead? What am I still doing as the system administrator while I am the lead, right? This is how you actually show your growth, and people like, man, she's multitasking. She got all of this and she's clearly explaining to me. That's what they care about. They don't want to see all these lines and boxes and stuff. They just want to know what you did, right? And what was the other thing too? So, okay, so here is, now before I got to my other one, this is a customer service representative, which has nothing to do with IT in general. This is actually when I was just an assistant doing secretary work. Now, what I did was, instead of talking about how I actually talk to customers, I actually talked about how I use technology to handle customers. This is how I made the jump from here to there. You get where I'm going with it? So as you start building your career, you should be whittling out the old stuff and implementing the new stuff. Every time you have a new skill, that should be the newest skill that you gain that you are looking to use to make a jump to the next level. Okay, so that's what I did here. Instead of saying, hey, I talked to customers and gave them their test results, I handled over 200 technical clients. I use the word technical because I'm trying to go from a customer service to a help desk. And then I'm telling them how I trained on technology applications. Now, here is an example of putting applications in my job description. I trained staff on the use of Fox Pro, Windows, Microsoft Quattro, whatever that was back in 1997, which was a long time ago. I use that technology to help my customers. Okay. Now, when I went to be a help desk manager, they said, okay, if she can handle 200 calls, she could be a help desk analyst. If she could be a help desk analyst and deal with PCs, she could be on the floor helping people with technology. If she could be on the floor helping people with technology, she can do land administration. You see how I'm jumping up the ladder? Now, every time I jump up the ladder, I'm asking for more money, more money, more money. Now, you notice I'm staying on these jobs at least 3 years, at least 3. And then the 4th year, depending on if it's a good job, I'll stay. Or if it's not so good, guess what? I'm going to start building up my resume. I'm going to start looking online. I'm going to start gauging what people are looking for. And I'm going to update my resume. And then I'm going to start applying for those jobs that match. Okay. So, you know what? Since we're on here, I'm going to show you one other thing. You guys got me on a roll here. Okay. So, okay. Can you see this web browser of Indeed? Okay. So, Nikki, what's interesting to me is that you talk about admin with sales. So I'm going to do just a simple search. And I'm just going to look at Maryland because that's where I am right now. Okay, so here we go. Right here. Here's one right here. Okay, you're on mute. Can't hear you. Okay, so this is an example of an administrative assistant with sales experience. Okay, now, I hope you guys can see this. So basically, the first thing they say is that they want someone who can pioneer and sell this stuff and have the freedom to use whatever sales that you want. And the first thing I do, I don't even look at the responsibility at first. The first thing I'm going to go to is the requirements. Forget about the task for a minute. Go straight to the requirements because that's the only thing that matters at this point. Do you have a bachelor's degree in this area? Do you have 2 or 3 years in healthcare? Do you have these strong computer skills? If the answer is no, 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 you do not match that job. I don't care what the task is. You don't match the job. But if you have a bachelor's degree, if you have 1 year administrative support, yeah, you got that. Have you worked in healthcare? You might not have 2 years in healthcare, but you got the 1 year in administrative assistant. If it asks for strong sales experience or you have some sort of rapport with customers, you want to pick at least 6 or 7 out of this list to make yourself 75% eligible for the job. Okay. If you're not 75 or more percent, it's going to be very hard for them to justify calling you. Okay. Now, let's say hypothetically you get in there, right? Now you're an administrative assistant / sales. Now you can branch off to sales, you can branch off to admin, you can branch off to some other thing because now you have it. And then you keep adding that to your resume with more experience, more expertise. But you don't want to you don't want to have it so random that there's no cohesiveness to it. You want to have something related to the sales or maybe in the industry. So for me, I stuck with healthcare, law firm, engineering. Those are my top 3 industries. I can move any and everywhere within those 3 industries doing whatever I'm doing right now and get paid the same or even more, right? So that's what you want to do. Let's see, here's another one. Okay, so so here's something. They want somebody with a high school diploma, working knowledge of Office. You got that, customer oriented, all the little basic stuff. And they don't really say too much. Now, the red flag with this is that they don't have no requirements for your education and background. Really, they just want to know if you can do these things. This is can do. But this is not the same as your actual background requirements, okay? They just want to know, can you work with customers? Do you have attention to detail? These are can-do things. Now, in that case, I'm going to go to the review. I'm going to find this company. I want to know what they're about. They got 3 stars. Okay, why they got 3 stars? Who is leaving? Okay, go to the reviews, check them out before you apply. Don't apply just because it looks like you can apply for it. Check them out, okay? Okay, here's an executive assistant sales organization. This one, they want to provide administrative support to the head of the future plan sales. Okay, so this means that you're an administrative assistant to the future plan sales. What that means to you is that if you get in there and you working with sales, you can actually be the head of the future plan sales. Or you could be the head of all the administrative assistant or office manager. You could be the head of something, right? Now, I'm going straight down to the requirements. I'm not even worried about the job tasks right now. Now, to get this thing, they want 10 years of admin. Now, even if you didn't have 10, if you had 7, or if you had 5, you can still sort of qualify because you have the years. Because believe it or not, this is their wish list of requirements. They know they're not going to get it all. So what they're going to do is they're going to throw all the requirements in there and hope that they fish for the person who matched the best. That's why I say 75% or more. Who matches the best? Right? If you have some of these other things in here, apply. Then you can go up here and check and say, okay, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? See, now it becomes you making the choice. Do I want to sit here and work with these people? Do I want to do this role? Okay, so I'm going to look at that and I'm looking at the experience and say, let me check out. They got 3 stars. Let me see who's leaving the company. Let me see what's going on. And once you feel satisfied, you can choose whether to apply. Now, depending on what Indeed has in here, I normally will go out to the actual website of the company and apply at the actual website if I can. Sometimes with Indeed, they get so many like frivolous applications that it's hard to, go through all of those. So if I can go to the company, if I can go to the actual company and go to their careers and actually apply there, I know that I applied there and not through a third party or recruiter or something like that. And if they're really interested in me, they will call me. They will actually send me an email, right? All right. I'm trying to see here. Here's general office sales support. This is another one I probably would never apply to because first of all, they already have on here what you are not going to be getting. Okay. First of all, $20 an hour seems like a lot of money, but already they're telling you about no other benefits in bold. Now, why did they need to tell me no other benefits? That's 8 days. That's a little bit of time off, right? They're already telling me what I got to have. And it sounds very dictative, right? So it just reading this and I'm like, no, I'm not even going there. Okay, I'm just going to keep looking, right? So as you can see, in administrative field, you can branch off to so many different places and so many different industries. So I would literally hang on to that sales thing and probably improve upon it any chance you get, because it can literally take you like anywhere. Those are one of those things where people always need a sales agent for some reason or another. And they make a lot of money if you get the right organization. Does that help? Okay. So you guys got me started. I can't stop. So yeah, so those are some of the strategies and tips that I use to help people get jobs. This is how I've learned. You just don't know what companies are going to do if they happen to downsize. I've been downsized multiple times, but I always got a job within 3 weeks. And it always happened at Christmas or Thanksgiving, right? By the time the new year came, I had another job. Because you have to be prepared. You always watch the market, always watch for changes, always check out the requirements, make sure that your job is aligning with your career path. And if you feel that the requirements are changing, they need new certification, they want you to have a new set of skills, you need to find a way to get those skills to keep yourself relevant. Okay? All right. Well, guys, that is really all I have. And again, I really appreciate you sticking it out for these 2 hours. It's definitely been so much fun talking to you guys. And I will be emailing you back your resumes tonight. And if you have any questions after that, please feel free to reach out to me. We'll have a one-on-one, whatever we need to do. So I hope you guys have a really good Memorial Day weekend. Keep smiling. Nikki. Nikki's smiling hard. Go ahead, girl. Karabi smiling. Aaron, I like the smiles. That means you're happy. Well, good. I'm glad you're happy because you guys made my day. So thank you so very much.
Thank
Thank
you. It was a
you.
great session.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a good night.
All righty. Bye-bye.